I'm not really sure about where to begin this story. There really is no climax, just some strange experiences. My best friend and I had just moved to our new two-bedroom apartment that we were sharing. I guess we were there for a couple of weeks when strange things started to happen. The first thing I remember is my computer always turning itself off. It was not just a shutdown because everything would be off. The speakers, the printer, everything. I wrote this off and thought maybe it was electrical problems, but then nothing else in the house would change. Since the day we moved in, we both noticed a strange feeling in the place, kind of like a heavy, relentless feeling. But I did my best not to connect these two ideas in any way, and decided it was just a new place in a new town. A couple weeks after that, things started to get more strange. My bedroom door would slam for no apparent reason. We tried turning the fans off, closing the windows, turning off the central air, anything we thought might be contributing to this, but nothing helped. What made this even more strange is that we had very thick plush carpet that met the bottom of the door, which would make it difficult for even a strong draft to slam the door. This continued, but we would only hear it, never see it. That changed one night when I was in my bedroom getting ready to take a bath. I had just ran the bath water and went back into the room to grab my robe. For some reason I was digging through the pile of clean clothes looking for my robe. I felt compelled to look at the bedroom door. Just as I did, it slammed shut right in front of my face. I decided against my bath that night and opted to sleep in my friend's room with her. She was more calm about the situation, but it was beginning to take a toll on me, and it seemed it all happened in my room. That night we were sitting on her bed talking about all of this, and from where I was sitting, my bedroom door was in plain view. We were talking and it was odd, but it was like I knew my bedroom door was going to slam. I kept watch from the corner of my eye, but nothing happened. I decided to shake the feeling off and focus more on the conversation. As soon as I looked back at my friend, the door slammed louder than it ever had. I was through. I freaked out and was stern in my conviction not to go back in there anytime soon. I stayed in her room for a few days, and that is when it started in the kitchen. We were sitting in her room watching TV one night, and I heard water running. I heard it, but I paid no attention. We lived in a complex with over 250 units, and with someone living above, below, and on 3 sides, you tend to hear everything. After a while, though, I realized the sound was close, like it was coming from our apartment. I went into the hallway and I can see into the kitchen. The faucet on the kitchen sink was on full blast. We racked our minds for the next 20 minutes to make sure neither one of us had left it on. Neither one of us had used the sink. A few nights later, we were getting ready to leave the house. As we were walking to the front door, I noticed my friend looking strangely towards the kitchen. Reluctantly, I turned to see what it was, and what I saw was the cabinet where we kept the cups in was open and totally empty. Not one cup in there. We just looked at each other crazy and left. Later that night, we came home and I walked into my room to get something. As soon as I opened the door, staring me in my face was the kitchen cups, all over my bedroom floor. As can be assumed, my reaction was not a calm one, and at this point my friend was scared as well. Until now, she kept calm and insisted that we ignore it. Not anymore. We ended up moving out a few weeks later because of a job transfer we both received, but I can't say that I wasn't happy to go. When I was in the 4th grade, my family moved into a house in Cypress, California. On the outside it looked like any other on the block, but on the inside it was anything but normal. The layout of the upstairs had changed by the previous owner and went from a 4-bedroom to one large loft. But there was something else in that house that for the longest time only us kids encountered. On the first day as we moved in, we watched a spice rack that was at the back counter. It slid across the tile counter and over the lip at the end of it and crashed onto the floor. Our parents did not believe us when we told them. They just thought one of us had done it ourselves. But as the weeks went by, things continued. The clock in the kitchen would periodically jump off the wall and land on the refrigerator 3 feet away. Never once did it hit the ground. The TV and stereo would turn on by themselves, tuned to a station with nothing but static. 3 to 4 times a week we would hear scratching noises on the east side of the house, and there were no bushes or trees on that side. My little sister and I every so often would hear someone moving around in the upstairs closet when no one was up there. My parents, however, thought this was all just our imaginations until one night. My sister Tina and I, along with the 2 of my other sisters, were up in her part of the loft one night, watching TV. We started to hear music from the music boxes on the other side of the loft where my other 2 sisters' beds were. They decided to go see what was happening, and as they turned the corner of the stairs, that is when it happened. From outside Tina's window, a voice called out to her. In a scratchy whisper, it called her name over and over. By the time it called her name the 3rd time, we were already heading down the stairs, followed by my other 2 sisters. They were running because they got to the music boxes, and then it stopped playing. We ran to our dad. After telling him what happened, he decided to go check it out. We followed him up the stairs to the window, all of us moving as one. But you could hear a pin drop with the silence that followed him opening the curtains. On the window was 2 smeared handprints on the outside, and hanging from the beam of the roof was a noose. My dad thought someone had tried to break in and called the police. After they arrived and checked the house and the surrounding property, they found nothing. They told my dad that no one could have gotten to that side of the house from the outside. Only from the inside was it possible. That is when they informed my dad of what occurred in the house years before. It seemed that the owners, prior to the one we got the house from, had a teenage daughter. One day when they had come home early, they discovered her body swinging from a noose from that very window, and on the outside of the window were 2 smeared handprints. That's all my dad needed to hear. We moved out that week, realizing that for some reason she was still there and didn't want any of the children in that house. From time to time I go by the house in Cyprus and always get the feeling something is watching me. But to this day when I hear something outside the window, I hesitate to look, in fear something may be looking back. In 2003, I had a girlfriend who had just moved into a manufactured house. I pretty much lived with her. My life was miserable at the time, and as the weeks went by, she told me that she thought the house was haunted, that she kept hearing noises and seeing things out of the corner of her eye. I just chalked it all up to her over-imagination. As more weeks went by, I started to believe what she was saying. The house just seemed like it was somewhat active. I too was hearing these noises at night and seeing things in my peripheral vision, more so than at my parents' house or just most anywhere else. But yet, I was still skeptical until a series of 3 nights. All 3 nights in a row. It wasn't unusual for me to stay with her 4 and 5 nights in a row, but something was different about these 3 nights. We headed for bed around 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night. For some reason, this night, I was having trouble sleeping. My girl was asleep in minutes. At around 11 p.m., I began to hear a very faint but strange noise. It sounded as if someone was slamming a very big metal door shut and open, shut and open over and over again. You know, like one of those big dungeon doors from an old medieval castle? Not unlike someone smashing a sledgehammer against a steel beam. Very strange, I thought, but very faint, as if in the distance. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't go away. As the time was passing, it was slowly getting louder, as if it was approaching me or something. About an hour passed, and I was relieved that it went away. I told my girlfriend about it the next morning, but she said she had heard nothing. Wednesday evening, more of the same. We went to sleep around 10, but yet I still found it hard to sleep, and the noise persisted this night too, but was noticeably louder than the night before. I even awoke my girlfriend to ask her if she could hear this strange sound, and she looked astonished. She had no clue what I was talking about. I was thinking that I was starting to go crazy or something. It was strange because the noise only persisted with my eyes closed and would slowly get louder and dissipate within about an hour. I thought maybe it was all some weird dream or something. I didn't know what to think. Then came Thursday. As we were heading for bed, I became sort of apprehensive about trying to sleep, but I went along to bed anyways with my girlfriend, around the same time as the nights before. At first I was relieved that this night seemed quiet, but then it started. This night was different than the first two. The noise started significantly louder this time. The noise pierced my ears. The noise was so loud that it made my whole head physically rattle every time it repeated itself. This time, I opened my eyes and the noise continued louder and louder. My ears began to hurt very intensely with each clash of metal. How could this be, I thought? How could she still be sleeping? It's as loud as a freight train. Then I looked out her bedroom door and froze solid. The noise ceased. What looked like a small human figure, more of a black mist, seemed to dissipate. I woke my girlfriend and explained to her what happened. She looked at me like I was nuts. She had heard nothing. After this night, I never experienced anything like this again at her house. Something about those 3 nights was not right. I know a couple of things, though. I wasn't dreaming. That noise actually caused me physical pain. Something was in the doorway of her room. I never doubted her when she said she saw or heard something. For the rest of my life, I will never forget those 3 nights. This whole experience seemed 100% real, as if it was happening in my mind. I assured it must have been a dream, but it was by far and away the most realistic dream I have ever encountered. What I thought was awoken from a deep sleep, with trouble breathing as I thought something had its hands wrapped around my neck. I opened my eyes to see this person who was under my covers, sitting knees first down on top of my chest, choking my throat, with their knees holding my arms down. I couldn't see a face straight away. I tried screaming for help from my wife, who was working on the computer in the adjoining room, but was unable to mutter much more than a faint murmur due to the being's hands wrapped around my throat. After several minutes of trying to fight this being off my body, I finally got a hand free to knock on the wall and attract my wife to come help, where I was able to somewhat fight this being off my body until my wife came in, and I was then able to see this being's face for the first time. It looked like a blonde female's face who had been drowned. My wife finally helped me get this being off of me, and as soon as I got up to hug her and turned around, it was gone. I got my wife to come to bed with me, and we held each other close, and finally, slowly dozing off again, I realized that this being was back, and that it was not my wife. I felt a surge of pressure being applied to my body by this being, as it once again tried to sit down on top of my chest while I was fighting this being. I assume I passed out. What seemed to be about 5 minutes later, I physically woke up. For real, this time. Threw my covers off, turned on the light, and headed straight for my wife in the next room. I told her about my experience, and she could see I was quite shaken up about it. I asked her about things like, did she hear me scream? Did she come in to help me? To which she didn't. All I could put this down to was a dream, but after reading similar stories on the net, I wonder if I could be more of a sleep paralysis syndrome. I take antihistamines before sleep, but I have done so for well over 10 years now, with no previous occurrence of this at all. I have had what I believe contact with the paranormal before, although previous times have been when I was well and truly awake. I have had about a month ago what I believe to be a real good dream with my deceased grandfather. Can ghosts visit in dreams? I didn't think it was possible. This experience has freaked me out completely, and I hope there have been others that experienced something similar in the past. My father built me a house 5 years ago. It was located at the back of our house where my family is living. It was a present to me after I made it to college. I didn't have any idea that I was not the dream house that I always wanted, but a house that I will later regret having. So after graduation, I lived in that house. It was very nice, like I'm living in an exclusive villa in an expensive subdivision. I started to feel that I wasn't alone there. On the first night I slept there, while in a deep slumber, my cell phone alarm rang at exactly 3 a.m. I was still sleepy, so I reached out for it with my hands while keeping my eyes closed, but I can barely touch it. It's not at the place where I usually put it before going to bed. I slowly opened my eyes, and then, to my surprise, I saw a lady in front of my bed. More like a silhouette of it, that is just standing in front of me. I closed my eyes again and hid myself under the blankets. I don't scream. I don't know what's up with me, but all I know is I'm not alone in my room, in my own house, in my own ghost house. Several times I experienced an old lady in my bathroom, children playing in my kitchen, a man hiding under the stairs, and a lady in my room. I was always scared. All days of my life, it's like I'm living in hell. My life is consumed by my fears for years. When I realized it, they're not causing me harm. I think they're friendly, and they just don't like me living alone in that house. That's why they come there and decide to stay, so I'm not alone. Day by day, different kinds of sightings happen in that house. Even my friends see them living with me at times. But I think they're not harmful, so I'm not scared anymore. Believe it or not all ghosts you see out there can cause you harm. When I feel them, I smile at them. Though sometimes I'm frightened. These people who are not with us are helping me in some way.
If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.